All right, peace, everybody. Welcome to the sit down, where real stories are told and the truth unfolds. My name is Malik, brother, and I'm here with my brother Ron and my sister. So once again, greetings to you and welcome to the second episode. Yeah, welcome to the second episode of the sit down. Tonight we have a special guest that we're going to bring on. I'm not going to introduce him right now. My sister's going to introduce him. But before we get started, I want to shout out the Asian community around. You know that we had to sit down at Constant and at the whole program. She Exists program. We support you. We stand with you, and you know we do the best and whatever we can do. We here at Constant at the sit down. With that being said, I just want to touch on something that's been real close to my heart, like everything we're going to talk about on the sit down. And that's the school to prison pipeline. And at one point, I didn't believe it existed. At one point, I rejected it. Even when the evidence was presented to me, I still wanted to reject it. But I had to look at my criminal past and what brought me from school to the prison pipeline, which was playing hooky. And during the time of playing hooky, I began to affiliate with kids that I didn't even know, right? But I would bump into other kids that were playing hooky as well in junior high school. So I got to know I was introduced to the criminal lifestyle because of the fact that I played hooky from school. Because of the fact that I wasn't in junior high school, 6th grade, I should have been behind the desk, paying attention, and doing what I was told to do from home. Right? So the prison to the school to prison pipeline, again, I rejected, but I gotta say real. I have to be totally honest. I can't refute evidence. I can't refute facts, and I can't refute my own experience with school to prison pipeline. So with that being said, I would like to just touch on that for a brief moment because I'm seeing the generational expansion of the school to prison pipeline. I'm seeing it not only happen in my generation. I'm a 60s baby. I was born in 65. But I'm seeing it in the last 10 to 15 years, it's still going on. And so in 2019, I had the pleasure to work in a school, a charter school, a private school, charter school in New York, right? And these kids, they wear uniforms. But once they got in the classrooms, I was able to tour the school. I was brought in as a school aide, a hall aide, to make sure the kids wasn't in the hallways, make sure they wasn't in the stairwells, in the bathroom, and the pay was good. They contracted my other program that I'm affiliated with in New York, and they brought us in. But I began to get, teachers approaching me during the first week, and I have your cell phone number. And I thought it was odd. I thought it was odd that this teacher in particular, the first guy, asked me for my cell phone number. But, being a professional, I gave him my cell phone, text me and explained why. So maybe an hour later, he texted me, come to room 308, quick. And I got to the classroom and I'm knocking the door and a student let me in. I walked in the classroom, it was a zoo. I was completely shocked. I thought my generation acted, I was completely shocked at what I saw in the classroom, a 9th grade classroom. It was like they were in a playground, in the projects, on the bleachers, in the project playground, on the benches, on the block, on the corner, and everybody, everyone was turned up. The ones that didn't want to turn up in the class, they followed the ones that were more popular and that were turning up. So it's like they were guided by indirect peer pressure. No other student was telling, yo, come on, turn up with us, right? I stood there and I watched them and I wasn't saying anything. They got caught doing the same stuff they was doing when the teacher texted me to come to the classroom. So I just stood there for about 5 minutes and I was just watching and listening and reminiscing, right? So then I called them to attention. All right, everybody have a seat. And they finally all sat down, unwillingly, most of them. So when I got the undivided attention, I was able to just convey my message. This is the school. It's learning. It's an educational place. It is not for the foolery. You know, and I had to break down to them, it's a time and a place to be a teenager. It's a time and place to act silly. But when you step into a school, and I explained to them, I'm learning, this is from personal experience. And so I left that classroom, I walked around the school because it was a school from 6th to the 9th grade. So I went to other classes and other grades, and I say 97% of the classes, same behavior. It really scared me because these children, they are the future. They are tomorrow for the Black and brown community. So if they don't take education serious, it's going to be that much easier for them to slide or be in a vacuum, the school to prison pipeline. And so all three of us, we in the pen. We did substantial time. This is no knock against someone who only did a week in the county jail, because 24 hours on lockup is too long because of the fact that your release is not guaranteed. That's the reason why it doesn't matter to me how much time you did. One of my homies just got murdered in the yard in 2017. When he was 17, he had 3 murder cases. He was charged with 3 murders. And subsequently, he was found guilty at 20, and he was given to life. At 20, state, and at 21, the judge brought him back to court to a gun charge. He had 7 for the 3 murders. So his plea was 10 to life. So in conclusion, he copped out to 10 years to life, running consecutive to the 75 to life he had. At 21, he had 85 to life. Hooky player, didn't take school serious, right? Didn't take much serious as most young people do. And he just got murdered in a Max A prison yard. So I say that to say, going to jail, going to prison is no badge of honor. Being locked up for 24 hours is too much because you can be murdered within that 24 hours. Around.
You know, I just wanted to add, I just want to, I'm going to bump around real quick. You know, speaking of, you know, the school pipeline to prison, you know, and, you know, and to each his own, and everyone has their own belief systems and their own way of dealing with things, you know, but I didn't allow my child to go to school after 5th grade because of school pipeline to prisons, you know, and for those who don't understand that, you know, you can Google it and get more research on it, and we'll most likely do another show about that in depth. But, you know, the school, the pipeline to prison, like, it's basically set up that way. You know what I mean? They have the uniforms just like they do in a penitentiary. They had the police in the school giving children cases for doing what children do, right? They did in every generation. Kids get in fight at school. Kids get stolen from at school. Yeah, they're crimes. Yeah, they should be disciplined. They should get expelled. They should have that stuff, right? But they're actually catching felonies for getting into a fight. So they're already starting that system of teaching them how to do time. They have scheduled meals and have to pick up their tray and put down their tray at the same time, just like they do in the penitentiary, right? They're doing the same things, and they're training them. They're training them to have the mentality, right, that you're speaking of, that you experience in that classroom. You know, that's what school pipeline to prison is in a nutshell. You know what I mean? But it goes deeper than that. You know, like I said, I took my son out of school because I didn't want him a part of that system. I done enough time for me and my kids. You know, we breaking the cycle. We ain't doing this. You know what I mean? And I didn't want him to learn the poor education or the institutionalization that is being taught in those institutions, right? The academic institutions. So, you know, the school pipeline to prison is like a real deal. It's a real problem for the youth, for the people who are coming up. You know, it was nothing. You know, I was talking to you and Oran the other day about this, and it's crazy because those of us who've done time, when you look back, how easy was it for us to acclimate right in character? right? Fall right into line because we've already been trained and conditioned in the school system to fall in line. Can't get out of line when you're in school. If you get out of line, you're in trouble. You lose your recess. You lose your privilege. You lose your, when we go to the penitentiary, we lose yard time, right? We get locked
So wait a
down.
minute.
You know what I'm saying?
So you think that it's structured that way?
Absolutely.
Because there's so many similarities. What you just said, it just rang a bell with this. Every rule you talked about they have in school, and if they break that rule, this is 8% of what you said is, in the penitentiary, and it just
absolutely. That's what
kind of gave me
cause
of pause. That's a fact.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm gonna
so what do you think the solution should be?
I'm going to have to jump in right quick and respectfully disagree. Now, I agree on some points. This is why it's called a sit down where the truth is told and real stories unfold. Because people out there doing this, your truth is different from ours. But we're always going to tell you our truths, and we're going to give you facts. So I do see similarities when you're in school, especially if you're in preschool up into about the 9th, 10th grade, 9th grade, 8th grade, when you have school hall attendance, lunchtime is a certain time, just as it is in prison. You got to get in line, you get your trays, you sit down. When the time is up for feeding in school, it's time to go back to class. You can lose that privilege if you was active or being disruptive in school because you can be sent to the principal's office. I said that right, prison office, but the principal's office. And so I do see some similarities, but I do believe that education and schooling is extremely important because first it starts from the home, but at the time it sets the building blocks in the foundation for who you will ultimately become. Your thinking, how you socially interact with other kids in school, with your teachers and so forth. So, I see the similarities, but I can't totally blame it on prison. Now, the prison pipeline, the school prison pipeline, I do believe that's something is true, depending on region, whatever you grew up, what school you're going to, if you're getting proper education and proper teaching, and teachers who really care and involved. But, again, you know me, this is what we do at the sit down. We may have varying opinions, but we will always give you honest and truthful answers and responses. So that's what I got to say about it.
Right.
Y'all
want to move? I agree with you. I mean, I don't think it's in every school. I think it's in our school.
Let me just make this clear. It's not in every school. We know that. You understand? It's not in the private schools. You understand? It's not designed that way for private schools. It's not designed that way for certain schools in a certain tax bracket. You understand? So let me just keep it on with
the private uniforms, instruction. Some similarities are in private schools because you got a uniform. Same thing you got to wear in prison, a uniform. So private schools are structured. That's why I said similarities of prison, but overall education. Go ahead.
But overall, see, because I spoke to Dr. Perry. Dr. Perry and Diddy, they found out a school in Harlem, right? Capital Prep, right? It's on 103rd Street and this 3rd Avenue, right? You can Google it, Capital Prep in Harlem, and you can Google Dr. Perry. He had the talk show on TV like Dr. Phil and Oprah, yada, 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 right? He's one of the co-founders. So I would sit with him and we would discuss certain things that we both saw in the hallways when children was going from the class to the bathroom or going back to the class from the bathroom and hanging out. And he and I would happen to bump heads with them, catching them in the hallway on different floors. So the metaphor for there's a metaphor for the uniform. It's to help them put into research, right? It's to help the student understand exactly where they are. It's like putting on a shirt. Huh?
Sorry, my phone was, never mind.
It's like putting on a shirt and a tie. There's certain, standards of dressing. There's a certain dress code especially with the. And so now they implemented what's called a relaxed day. You can come to work on a Thursday or Friday, the end of the week, and you can wear jeans, a shirt, you understand, a jacket and some, sneakers or some soft bottom shoes. But it is uniform. You know what I mean? So with the uniforms in these charter schools, right? It's to make the student understand the difference between wearing street clothes to school and the attitude you would have clothes, as opposed to wearing a uniform and the attitude that you have because you wear the uniform with the badge on your shirt, the school name, capital prep, and it's supposed to be an honor thing. Make you feel honorable and better about being in this institution because you have a uniform on. And the boys have on the blazer with their insignia for school, shirt and tie, beige slacks and shoes. The females, black skirts and blouses with the insignia of the school. But again, no sneakers allowed, no shoes allowed during class. But it's to make the student feel professional. You know what I mean? And in a way, it's like, it's a double-edged sword to me.
Okay, well, mic check. I think that topic in the discussion we're having needs further discussion, and it's really a whole topic on its own that we could spend a whole hour, 2 hours, probably more. But right quick, I would like to, before we pass it on to the beautiful Cuban Enlightenment CDL, I'd like to say what I have to say and give a few shout outs. Today's discussion is on the Constitution, the great Constitution of the United States of America. So before I go into that, let me give a couple of shout outs to Florida Prison Rights. These are groups that I'm involved in. So Florida Prison Rights Reform, Criminal Injustice and Reform. I want to shout out to Miss Stacey Abrams down there in Atlanta, Georgia. Sister, you rock. Real. I want to shout out to Jocelyn Taylor, childhood friend who's running to be the first female African American female mayors of the city of New York, as well as another good friend, Emmanuel Whitmore, who's running to be the Brooklyn Borough president. So shout out to you guys. And in talking about the Constitution, our topic today, I didn't go into any of my research in the U.S. Constitution looking to parse any specific information to fit in any agenda other than the truth, nor to add more fuel to the anguish, pain, and the pain that so many of us experience every single day, day in and day out in our lives in this country, particularly African Americans and people of color. Now, we can ignore facts. Matter of fact, we cannot ignore facts, science, or math. It may upset you what we're getting ready to speak about, but this is the reality and it still happened. Now, going into the Constitution, I want to read you some things right quick and some basic facts about the Constitution of the United States of America. In 1776, the Declaration of Independence was written. Listen, its grievances to break from British rule. And in 1787, 55 delegates met in Pennsylvania to adapt and sign what is known as the Constitution of the United States. But only 39, hear me out, I need y'all to follow these numbers, people, to the viewers. Out of the 55 delegates, only 39 of those delegates actually signed the Constitution. And the majority of the framers, as well as the signees, owned slaves. This is where we're going to get, it's going to get really important. So I need you people to stay current with the numbers. The majority of these signees and the drafters owned slaves. Did you know the first 12 out of the first 12 presidents of the United States of America, 8 of them owned slaves? Why does this matter? All judicial law, you hear me? All judicial law, the laws that we under today, spring from the wells of the Constitution of the United States. And absolutely, these are the framers who wrote it, continue to own slaves.
Yeah.
Now, we are judged daily and legally in one group more than the other group, primarily Africans Americans. And we can see the effects of the Constitution from its inception, when it was drafted, written, to this very day in 2021. How? Why? The creators of the Constitution, majority of them old slaves. So in the very beginning, the Constitution was already flawed. Let me tell you why. Not only because they owned slaves. These are the men who drafted, wrote, and signed the Constitution of the United States, the laws by which you and I are judged by. We can talk about amendments and all of that. If you've ever taken the time to look at the actual Constitution and you look to where the signees signed their names, we see 5 grammatical errors already. We see 5 grammatical where they signed their names. Pennsylvania is spelled with 1 N. Choose is spelled C-H-U-S-E. Then defense is spelled wrong. And labor. Back then they spelled labor L-A-B-U-R. We spell it L-A-B-R, labor. O-R. So in its inception, it was already fundamentally flawed. We have the flaws because these men who wrote it owned slaves. Let me give you a famous line from the Constitution. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Right quick. We the people. Who are the people then? White men.
Them
who own slaves. White men who own slaves. So in order to form a more perfect union, but remember at this time, African Americans, our ancestors, were slaves. They were property, okay? They had no hand in drafting this Constitution. These same laws are the laws, and then we can talk about the amendments that came later on down the line to amend the Constitution, are still the laws by which we are judged by to this day. Mm-hmm. So I want, how is it fair? We're talking about 2021. How is it fair? So my thing is not to always challenge the Constitution in court cases or legal proceedings, but to have it rewritten. I see so many scholars talk about the Constitution, whether it's African American, Caucasian, Hispanic, whatever. Speaking about the Constitution, how fair it is and how unfair it is. But if we have to look at the very beginning, since nobody wants to have that argument, because the facts are these. When the Constitution was written, 55 delegates went to Pennsylvania for a convention. Out of the 55 delegates, 39 signed it. 26 of them actually owned slaves. Okay. Out of the Constitution, judicial law. Anybody out there who is unaware of judicial law, that's what's happens in the court. Whether you get a traffic ticket, you're arrested for a crime or whatever, it's judicial law. Right. These laws spring from the Constitution. We, the people, were not included in the Constitution way back when. Okay? And we have men and women to this very day, African American men and women and people of color, who are still judged by this document. Okay. Now they're going to say, oh, the laws were amended, yada, yada, yada. But if we look at the 2.3 million people in prison to this very day, and I believe African Americans only make up 13% of the population in the United States, make up 5 to 80% of the prison population. And this is this is the great Constitution. This is the laws. So my thing, and I'm going to close out and put it to you, my brother, my sister, as well as guest viewers. Do we challenge it, or should it be rewritten? Because certainly it wasn't written with you and I in mind. What say you, my people?
Well, I'm just going to say something briefly on that. 2 things stood out. One, when you mentioned the fact that certain words are spelled incorrectly because the English grammar spelling wise, it hasn't it hadn't really evolved much at that time. But more importantly, I believe that a proposal should be submitted, right, to rewrite it, to include all people of all races, faiths, backgrounds, creeds, colors, and country of origin. You understand?
Right.
Because what you said is, I mean, I can't say it no plainer, bro. We the people did not include enslaved and so-called free blacks at the time when that was drafted and written. We were considered. Asian Americans was not considered. Latino Americans were not considered. You understand? The Nativians were not considered. No one was considered but these few white men, and actually the white woman wasn't even considered then. She didn't get rights until, decade or so later. So that was about the white men that owned these slaves. You know what I mean? As you pointed out. So to answer your question, yeah, I demand that it be rewritten to include all people that's here in America.
Well, I concur with all of that, and hey, why stop there, right? Like, let's go and look at all the laws that are still going on in different towns and cities and states. Like in Texas, there's several cities that still have a curfew for blacks on the books. Now, they may not enforce it. Some may enforce it. And that's not just in Texas. I'm just using that as a reference. You know what I'm saying? We need to rewrite all of that, and I encourage all of the viewers to research the laws that are still on the books. Now, whether they're enforcing them or not is one thing. But my question is, why are they still on the books?
Because they can't
enforce them if they want to. Why hasn't it been taken off yet? So that you have a loophole to get us? Like, there's always a loophole to get us. You know what I mean? When the rubber meet the road, we can't get them this way. Let's get them this way. So, I think all the above. Yeah, it needs to be rewritten. I mean, there's still parts of the Constitution that talks about, the black man being 1/3 or 1/5 or whatever the hell that quote is. Don't quote me on it right now. Usually I have my information in front of me. Yeah, 3/5 of a human being, and they still have it, the one drop law in the Constitution, right? So you know what I'm saying? That they're still dealing with that old ancient eugenics that needs to be revamped and restructured as well. Like, why stop there? And what's so important about this conversation, this is why I love you two, because for the viewers, we have these conversations every day with each other. So we be on hours just breaking it down. But my thing is this is where the fight is, not on the pavement, in walking in a circle where the police tell us to walk. At the times they tell us to walk during a civil unrest, no justice, no peace, but we have a peaceful protest. That contradiction. Instead of doing the contradictions, right? This is where we need to gather as a people and make change, right? You got to start at the top. You got to get to the root. I don't care if it's a personal issue, if it's a systemic or institutional or a racist issue. You got to meet it. You got to de-root it. You know what I'm saying? You got to go to the root. And what Iran has brought to the table is the root of all the evil that's going on, right?
That's the Constitution.
It's their loophole in everything that's going on in the world, right?
That's why independent. Hey, Iran, I need you to touch on the 13th Amendment real quick, right? Where it talks about slavery being allowed in prisons.
Absolutely.
Bro.
That's a whole other show. Yeah. Like, we have a whole show. We can do a whole show on that.
To be honest, it would take me so long to really get to the point I'm trying to make, because I would have to first take the listeners or the viewers to the source to get them to the actual reason and explanation. But when we think about slavery, the first thing that comes to most people's minds is men and women in chains being beat, hung, raped, killed, and murdered. Because we think about what I call a time of ignorance. But modern day slavery is not so much different from the actual slavery. See, we can have a discussion on that, but I would rather us make that a whole topic, because it would take away from the time we need to bring our guests on, for CDO to make her points and me to close out on what I'm saying. But I think any of you who may be listening has at least this much sense enough to know what you're talking about. And if you don't, the email address is at the bottom here. You can email us your questions, anything you have to refute, your proof to what we're talking about, and we will respond. Because one thing to sit down isn't, we don't segregate and push people away. We want you to come in, if you're Christian, if you're Jewish, excuse me, Asian, Latino, Black, whatever. Because we want to have a dialogue, whether you believe I'm right, whether you believe you're wrong, so we can get to a resolution, because we can't keep having these conversations, because that's all I've been hearing for the last 20 years. We need to have a conversation. We need to have a conversation. We need to talk about this. Damn it, come to the sit down. Let's talk about it, and then let's get a resolution before the revolution. Okay, so the Constitution, again, is something that is passionate. I'm always been about it. I didn't always know about it. I had to study it and learn it this last bit, because my physical life was on the line, okay, because of the charge, because of a needle possibly going in my arm, okay? That's what I faced. So I was forced to learn the Constitution of the United States of America. And this very Constitution had myself, CDL, Malik, millions of other African-American men and women in prison right now, okay? As well as guests that's getting ready, that's gonna be coming up. So I just wanted to share that, and I encourage the viewers, if you don't know the Constitution, please study it. And we need to stop talking about challenging it. Let's challenge to have it rewritten, because we the people, for the people, by the people, did not include you, did not include us. So, I had a little bit more to say, but for the sake of time, we want to move this along, and then if I can slide it in, I'll get it back in. CL.
How much time we got, CD?
We still got it. We got a whole we got time. But I want to speak on one of our viewers, Tony, in the comment said that the individual spoke on chain gangs and Jim Crow, and a lot of people don't know this, but there is still chain gangs to this day in certain states. There's even juvenile chain gangs to this day. There's the private prisons are totally operated differently than the public prisons, right? The private prisons have chain gangs and can do what the hell they want to inmates. So, that's a whole other topic of discussion that we can have too. I just wanted to put that out there because, that I watched a documentary in Arkansas of some juvenile, they even make their inmates, the male inmates, wear pink, right?
Yeah.
They make them wear pink.
That was Sheriff Arpaio. That was Sheriff Arpaio.
Yeah.
And you're housed outside. You're housed outside in a tent. Yeah. In a tent, no matter what the weather. In a tent, right? Not a closed tent, not a camping tent. I'm talking just a awning with rows of bunks. This is the stuff they don't want to talk about. These are the conversations they don't want to have, right? They also don't want to talk about all of the celebrities that have invested financially to these private prisons, right?
Oh, of course.
I'm talking about people in the industry of color right?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
they don't want to have those conversations, but anyways, we can go on and on and
Hey,
on and
right
on.
quick, Malik, what
Yo.
do you two think about this clown? Because I have to call him that.
Oh, yes, please.
Mr. Johnson.
Whew.
Is he a senator? The one that got up there a couple of days ago and said there's an old saying in Texas that there's enough rope.
There's enough rope in an oak tree, and that's how we should handle crime.
And that's how we should get our justice. And if anybody heard that on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, whatever, this man referred to an old saying because we know Texas was one of the most racist states in the country, where slavery was high and profitable, where still goes down there now, not the slavery part, but the whole system. This man said there's an old saying. So what you're telling the people is, back in the day, when they got out of line, we got the rope, because we got plenty of rope. We got plenty of oak trees to hang their asses. Because
and this is 2021, he's still saying it.
Still saying, because the only justice back then for African American was hanging, chopping off something, and whipping. So what is this man saying? I don't understand why the viewers, you see, so many of you
they need to be boycotting him.
Right. So many of you may not watch CNN. So many of you may not watch Fox News, or MSNBC, or news for that matter. That's why, because we can speak the same language. That's why we ask to tune in, because we can speak to you in a language that we know. We grew up. We came up in the streets. We've been in them penitentiaries. We've been about that. We were about that business. We're not talking about what they're rapping about, because what you rapping about, 90% of y'all didn't live that. See, my thing, like my brother started in the beginning, and I'm gonna pass it along, sorry for taking a little bit of time. My brother started in the beginning where he said, it doesn't matter how much time you did, whether you did 24 hours or 20 years. I differ a little bit, because I'm tired of a lot of people talking about I did a bit, I did time, and you sat in the county for 6 months. You sat in a county jail for a year. You ain't never been on no prison yard. You didn't put in no decades. You didn't put in no real work. You understand what I'm saying? And you talking about you did a bit. I'm not trying to glorify the length and amount of time I did. I wish I can take it all back. But as I said in the other broadcast, you get one shot in this life. You cannot pause the tape. You cannot rewind the tape. You cannot edit the tape. It is a one-shot deal in this life. You hear and then you're gone. So I can't go back and take back all the hurt that I caused, as Malik mentioned in the last broadcast, to my children, because I stayed in the system and I stayed in the streets. I wasn't out here being a father to my children. And their mothers in the streets had to raise them, because I put too much time into the streets in a prison. That ain't being a father. That's not being a man. So brothers and sisters of y'all not here right now, you're in them streets, and it's sweet now, and it's all good now, but the Constitution gonna catch you.
Yeah.
The Constitution gonna catch you. And if you don't know about the Constitution, you better get ready. You better learn it, because at some point in time, you're going to have to use it, because it's going to catch you, okay? And that's the Constitution that we're just talking about, because I hurt my kids by being there. I had a major blowout the other day with one of my daughters, because that's where I was at. That's why I'm an ex-con to a don today. And I love my daughter. And I wish I could take back the hurt and the pain, but as I said, you can't pause this life. You can't rewind this life or edit this shit. Excuse my language. You cannot edit this. I hurt my kids. And my baby girl, if you out there and you listening, you know who I'm talking to, I love you. And I'm sorry. To all of my kids, I love y'all and I'm sorry. To my moms, I love you and I'm sorry. So we were talking about the Constitution. Sorry if I deviate a little bit. And I'm always trying to keep it in step and keep it on point. But brothers and sisters, for what the news you don't look at can't tell you, that's why you have to sit down. Because we speak the same language. You're going to hear it from us. You're going to hear it raw from us, and you're going to have to hear the truth from us. You know what I mean? You feel me?
Yeah, that's a fact.
Fact.
Yeah.
Indeed. So, with all that being said, we do have a guest interview tonight. I'm gonna refer to him as Monsta Yo. He's gonna introduce himself though, because he can do it better than I can. You know, I'm not even gonna tell you why we're interviewing him. I'm gonna let him tell you that as well. So, with no further ado.
Y'all hear me?
Greeting, Monster.
How you guys
Somebody's
doing?
music on. Somebody's turning music on. Over on screen is messed up, but he's still here with us. I'm gonna need you guys to put your phones on vibrate, please. Thank you very much. How you doing, Monster?
Man, I'm productive and I'm positive.
So tell us, tell the viewers who you are and where you're at right now.
Okay, so I Monsta Yo. I'm an individual born and raised in Long Beach.
Where's Long Beach?
At age 16, end up Long Beach, California.
Okay.
It's in LA County, right next to Compton, throughout that whole little Compton, Watts, LA County. At age 16, in times that ended up getting me 44 years. At age 17, I hit the prison yard. That was not a life for a juvenile. They didn't send me straight. I'd been to YA before, and I guess they felt like I didn't need YA. So they sent me straight to the pen. In that moment, I was forced to grow up. I was forced to face the reality I'm not a kid no more, and that this was not a game. They sent me to one of the coldest yards I could go to at the time's High Desert State Prison. We opened it up, and it was vicious. Back then, they had all type of people on that yard, from homosexuals to booty bandits to crazy serial killers, everything else. So you never knew who you were around, and as a youngster, a lot of the booty bandits would get a lot of youngsters because we were the night visuals. We had nobody, and so they would focus on us. I remember a time when booty bandit, he get youngsters in the cell and tell them he has to relieve himself every 7 days. And what he meant by that is that after 7 days, he would rape them. And he was raping all these youngsters. And I remember all of us youngsters, we were just fed, and they would put a lot of us youngsters in the cells with these booty bandits because of wild youngsters, and so in order to put us in our place, they would throw us in the cells with those individuals. One day, there was this young, he was 2 years older than me. I was 17, he was 19. Light-skinned guy, long hair. They were going to throw him in a cell with this big old guy. Knew that young man was down. I knew he was there, but I knew, in fact, he would not be able to defend himself. So I volunteered. In the end, that man ended up dead. Unfortunately, how it wasn't.
You're breaking up, Monster.
That
You're
was
breaking
the
up
way
a
of
little
life.
bit. I think so. Hold on. Yeah, just try now.
Where do we stop? off at? Where did you stop off at?
No, we heard you, but it was just breaking up. We heard you. It was just breaking up.
Okay, so from then on, it just became a downward spiral. I realized early on in my career that wasn't necessarily the inmates around me, but the officials.
Let me ask you
like to stage these fights and warrior gladiator fights and
You keep breaking up, Monster, and Oran has a question.
So you're saying that
oh wow. Okay.
You murdered while in prison, you murdered the man who was the booty bandit. And for people who don't understand what a booty bandit is a man who rapes or has sex in prison or in the streets for that matter with another man, and just forcefully chasing. So you're saying you murdered a man while you were in
a booty bandit. Yes. And a booty bandit is
so you murdered.
There's a difference. In prison, a booty bandit is a man that rapes mates. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you killed him while there.
Okay. And say that again.
Okay, so you guys are breaking up. I'm gonna need you guys to pause just a second. Get your things together because everyone's breaking up. So, Monster, your screen is really, really fuzzy, and I don't know if you're moving around. Your headphones might be what's doing it. I don't know, but it's breaking up a little bit.
If he can hear us, that's good enough. My question,
I can hear you guys.
My question to you is: you killed another man while in prison, already serving a life sentence. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And to be clear, because you were breaking up a little bit, you're already doing 4 life sentences plus 70, correct?
4 life sentences plus 70 years. Let me say this, because I don't want you guys to think that here it is, I went out doing some violence while, when you're a kid and you're up against certain external factors that are crucial, critical, you don't know what's going to happen. In that moment, it's a fighter type of moment. The man was huge. I knew exactly what was going to happen. The moment I stepped in and the door closed, the first thing he told me was, "You got pretty eyes." First thing. The second thing he told me was, he's going to relieve himself after 7 days. And so it's going to happen on my watch, and fight reflex took over. It's nothing that I celebrate at all. In that moment, one of the best things did happen and did come from that. Because of me, mind you, I was 17, and so I should have been in a cell with who had a hit rate in the cells. And so, but it was still unfortunate because why was the creating this type of environment for individuals to serve out their time? People don't consider stuff like that. Mind you, this was called behavioral management. We were disrespectful kids because we didn't know any better. But their way of putting us in our place was these type of extreme stances and then call us the violent ones. Are we really the ones? Because we were put in that type of situation. Who wouldn't fight? That's my question to you guys.
Must say the crimes that you committed to get to prison was worthy,
yes, sir,
of whatever you had to handle while you were there. Because they're saying you took some lives to get to prison.
Yes, sir.
And at 17, yes, you didn't care about what happened to you because you say that this shouldn't happen and that there was a system that was created or an atmosphere in that prison that would allow this to happen.
Right.
And you, as a 17-year-old, you shouldn't even be on the yard. But people would say, look at what you did. So what? Who cares? What do you say to them?
So let me take you back. Let me take you back to childhood. You see, there's an why an individual begins to be a product of his environment. And this is not an excuse. I'm just down the road in which led me to the behavior which I performed throughout. So my father was a terrorist. What I mean by that is he terrorized our home. He beat my mother regularly. He beat me regularly. You know, he was God in that house. You know, and outside you would think he was the sweetest man. Inside, he had his guns, utilize and intimidate us. You know, and so he made sure we would be terrified of him, but outside the home, we had to be that masculine force of whatever. You know, abused me to the point to where he ended up going to jail one time for his abuse. There was more than just physical abuse. And so that really damaged my psyche in the beginning. So when I went out into the world, my thing was to try to find my identity. You know, and in going out into the world, I didn't realize it's crazy because it's almost kind of like Stockholm, because you don't read a lot of the characteristics of your abuser by taking that out into the world and becoming the menace of society. I mean, like, just the same way that my father would abuse the home, I was abusing the society and community that I professed to love. And I didn't understand that. So I would go out there and I would be the worst of the worst. If you was a dude, I'm beating you if you challenge me, if you got in my way. Because I wasn't beating them. I was beating my father, who I was terrified. And so I never actually grasped that concept until later on in life. But that's what I was doing. People would say, you're fearless, crazy, you're this. And they're not understanding that I'm searching for an identity. They're not understanding that I'm grasping for something. I'm grasping for life. So when I committed my crimes for what I'm in here for, my back then was I was already lost. I was lost psychologically. You know, I'll give you one of my crimes. Well, I'm gonna say this. When I committed my crimes, initially in my head, it was, you know, it was another tribe. And in my head, it was saving my home girls, and, you know, because I'm saving my, it's justified. It wasn't justified. Taking a life is one of the worst things a human being can do to it. You know, there could have been other ways of approaching that situation. I didn't have foresight. I didn't have insight. I didn't realize that I could have walked away. I could have ran. I could have done anything other than pull that gun out and start. And that's one of the biggest regrets that I have today, because I never even considered, you know, when that gun, I terrified my, you know, what person in that household, in a house that heard the gunshot, wasn't scared to the point of not knowing if that bullet would have hit them. You know, what child was affected to the point to where now they have to do the same thing that I do, or they don't want to go outside and play because of the actions, my actions in that society. You know, what about the economic value? I brought down the economic, because in that area, it became a high risk area. You know, there's so many things that I did that I didn't realize back then, that I wouldn't have done today. you know, and so yeah, so there would have been a lot of changes. I would have done things much differently if I knew better. Um, but you asked me, why should someone consider, or why should someone feel bad for me going to prison, um, as, you know, and subjected to things in prison? Well, one, a kid should not be in a facility in the first place. You know, a child is a child. Hillary Clinton said that she called us what, serial
Predators.
gosh, what is that name?
Serial predators.
Thank you. I
Super
appreciate that. Super predators. Thank you.
Super predators. Yeah.
Predators back in '94. And by predators, what you did was you sabotaged our psyche, because now you think it in our minds, us being first of the world is a badge of honor, you know, and we were, I don't know,
didn't just damage your mind, but also the minds of the general public or any district attorney or judge that will handle your case, because they already have
absolutely
been told many of you are super predator, so they're already
right,
biased from the get-go when a young man like you comes in
right,
before their courtroom. So I understand exactly what you are saying, you know, and the only reason I asked
right,
that question was people would say, so what? Without knowing that as you related the Stockholm Syndrome to your father and what you went through, and when you went out there, you saw your
right,
victims as your father, the abuser. And so, see, sometimes people
right,
judge you and don't know the story, which they judged me,
exactly.
my brother Malik, CDL, and everyone else without knowing the backstory. So, what can you say to these young men and women who are out there on the streets right now doing whatever they're doing? Well, if they didn't hear what you were already talking about, and if that didn't scare them enough, shit, excuse me. What can you say to them, the viewers, to tell their children, to teach their fathers, to teach their sons better, to not wind up or end up in the same situation that you're in?
Well, one of the things about my news in general is that, you know, the economic factor removes the parent from the home, and so they cannot be present in that child's life um, all day. That's the biggest problems. You know, be a parent in that child's life 24/7, because the parent raises the child. You know, and I'm not saying that just because a parent is going to work and trying to feed the family that makes them an inept parent. It doesn't. What I'm saying is they need a constant role model, you know, because the reality is this: they go to school, you know, their role models become the hype in the schools. Their role models become the hype in the street. Their role models become the social media in which they see, and they begin to glamorizing that. They become a part of that. They internalize that, and then all of a sudden they start to display those characteristics of we've seen, and that's not the way to go. Teaching starts in the home. You know, when it goes to school, you give that child a hug before the child goes to school, give him positive affirmation or her affirmation. Who are you? I am a king. I am a queen. Why are you a king and a queen? Because I am knowledgeable. I am educated. Be acknowledged. You know, a lot of times we forget to apply self-determination inside the hearts of our children. You know, by giving them that self-determination, you give them a drive. You give them a unity within. You know what I'm saying? To march and move confidence. You know, there's so many traumas and it is. And they need to be prepared before. They need to know strong enough to overcome those traumas before they get there. And it all starts in the home. That would be my advice.
You know, I have a question, Monsta. How long you been down now? You went in when you were 16.
Yeah.
How many years have you been down already?
I've been down over 26 years.
Okay.
Over 26 years.
What have you done since you've been in there?
Oh, okay. So one, let me say this. One of the biggest things that could have ever happened was I ended up over 26 years, 17 years in solitary confinement. And
What?
In serving 7 solitary confinement, yes, sir. Yes, sir. In serving 17 years of solitary confinement, one of the best things that could have happened, that it forced me to slow down and self-reflect. It forced me to strip down that negative or whatever energy that I had for the negative and really start myself. Who am I? Who am I as a person, as a being, as a man? And the minute I began to peel back ears and understand myself, I opened up, it opened up avenues of, so I began to educate myself. The more I began to educate, the more my language began to change. I first came, my every other word was cuz and nigga. You know what I'm saying? And today, you rarely hear they come out my mouth, you know, because I'm grown as, you know, and so the way that I speak, you know, generation that it's okay to speak with intelligence and not be shy of it, you know. So I ended up gaining my, I ended up published over, I believe, over 9 books, for ranging from my children's, my edition, to my little thriller book, Seductive Divine Comprehension, which is a book based on common sense of using basic judgment, you know, just giving you knowledge of self and positive affirmations about within that knowledge. From there, I've gotten my certificate, practice, appraisal, and principal in real estate. I've earned a certificate from Baylor University. What else? I have a slew of, I have a range of certificates. I've started my own record label. I do my own music, you know, so I got music out there. I recently got a song with Corrupt, you know, and, you know, that's what I'm doing.
Who you say
building, you know,
With Corrupt.
Say that again.
He was asking who you said. I said he has a song with Corrupt.
What's the name of the song?
Okay.
What's the name of the song?
The song is called Monsta Yo. You can go to any platform, iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Membership by Monsta Yo.
So let me ask you this, Monsta. Monsta, let me ask you real quick. Not only are you doing 4 life sentences plus 70, right, which is insane. You also did 17 years.
74.
I mean, 17 years in solitary confinement, which is inhumane. And where did you, I have 2 questions. Where did you get the gumption or the inspiration or the motivation or the wherewithal to even want to do these positive things when most people looking at that much time would be like, fuck it? Where did you get
let me answer that part
that internal motivation?
That part first. So yes, you have to be completely broken in order to find yourself. And so you have to understand that during that time, we went through the gladiator fights, went through the hunger strikes, we went through the cell extractions. You know, I went through so many things back there in solitary confinement. I remember one time we did a united cell extracting because they weren't giving us showers. So all the races came together. because they felt like I orchestrated that cell extraction. Uh, United drugged me out the cell. Back then, let me describe to you what a cell extraction was back then. So what happens is that you have a team of SEALs dressed up in riot gear, posted at your door. You have two sergeants. You have a lieutenant, possibly a captain outside your door. They tell you to cuff up, you don't cuff up. They tell you to cuff, you don't cuff up. So they then spray your cell. Once they spray into your cell, back then they used to use block guns. Block guns is like a gas gun with a rubber bullet. So you have a sergeant shooting at the bottom. And so they shoot in your cell, the door, then spray again, close it, cuff up, over and over and over again. Now, if you knew what you were doing, you would be able to, you'll learn how to meditate in that, which I had to learn how to do. I learned how to meditate. Even asked and having bullets hit me upside the head and everything. And so, you know, they rush up in there, and you have, once you have that fight, they take you down and they whoop on you bad. With me, because they felt like I was the instigators, they cuffed me up, they dragged me on the floor all the way down to the hallway. They cuffed me to, and they took turns beating on me. They beat on me for, oh my God, felt like forever. Just one, each one just coming, kicking me, spitting on me. One even pissed on me. That was probably one of the lowest of the low, because I couldn't do anything. You know, it was time for me to get medical assistance. They've been there for a week. Assistance, just sitting there. So what I learned was, in that moment, I couldn't, like in that moment, I felt, but there was something inside of me mad. I got mad because, I don't know, for me, like, how break me? How dare you think that you are worth to commit a crime, yet still imprison me and confine me and inject me to this captivity? And for me, I got mad. And when I went back, of course, I did get back. But after that was over, like they're all broken up, and you say to yourself, there has to be something different, something better for my life. You know, I was still with the hunger strikes and cell extraction, but I had to realize that my life was better than this, and it was worth way more. If I'm going to do something, I had to do it for just.
Yo, real quick, I just want to say,
a lot of earth angels around me, individuals who.
Real quick, man, I just want to say, one of the viewers posted a comment. They want to know the name of the song.
I just typed it in.
Okay, and I also want to ask you to let the viewers know, you know, where to find your books, where to find your music, where to find your material. Also, how the viewers can get in contact with you, if the viewers want to contact with you. Because right now, from what I get from you, I consider you a professor. I consider you a scholar. And I'm not talking about the degrees you got in the pen.
Appreciate that.
I'm talking about because of the knowledge of self that you allowed yourself to get. As opposed to somebody.
I put his contact info in the description. It's in the description for those of you who are looking for his contact info. I've already put it in the description.
Yeah. So my last question is, you say you did 17 years in the box, and in my almost 28 years in the pen, I did stints every now and then. But I recall when you mentioned that, how at breakfast time I wouldn't eat breakfast. I would take the butter and put it on my skin when I took a bird bath in the cell after shower. And at lunchtime, I would eat the breakfast. At dinner time, I eat the lunch. And then at like 9, 10 o'clock when lights go out, I would eat the dinner. And I understand what it did to my psyche. It made me hate. It made me hate. It made me hate. Right? And I was also with a dude that his first day, he broke the bulb in the cell, the long fluorescent bulbs. He broke the bulb, closed his eyes, and he gouged his left eye out, cut it out completely.
Wow.
He didn't even do 24 hours in lockup. You survived 17 years in lockup. Briefly, describe what that was like for you mentally in solitary 20 hours a day.
I'm gonna tell you this. Okay, so mentally, it was claustrophobic. That was probably one of the biggest things that affected me. You know, I felt like I was always in a space, you know, and I always wanted to get out. I couldn't move. You know, they say sensory deprivation is real, and it truly is. When you're put in that situation, you're taken away from the normal stimuli in which allows you to be a normal human being. So what happens is that you start to develop this antisocial behavior. And I'm going to be 100 with y'all. I'm still messed up. Like, don't get me wrong. I might be able to speak, articulate myself. I might be able to do what I do today. I suffer from social anxiety and all that because of that 17 years. You know, there's times that I function well. Other times I need to be by myself because I'm, you know, you really do get affected, you know, being touched. I remember, mind you, out of my first time ever hugging her since I was incarcerated was after 20 something years. And when she hugged me, I loved the fact that she hugged me, but I didn't know how to receive the affection because I hadn't received touch. You know, I hadn't received the feminine touch, the loving touch. You know, all my were violent. And so that's all I knew. And so I didn't understand, you know, how to even receive. And so I changed that mind state. But without a doubt, being in that situation, what happens is that it becomes like an out-of-body experience. You either go crazy and lose yourself, or you go crazy and you get better. I went crazy and I got better. What I mean by that is there were times when I would lose it, you know, and all of a sudden I'm watching because they mess with your food, they mess with your meal, you know, and it becomes a process, a constant pattern, and you start to become paranoid. You literally start to become paranoid. And I had to lose myself in the process in order to find myself, you know, and so that's what it was. I'll tell anybody incarcerated that feels like they're over paranoid or whatever else, you're paranoid for a reason, because there was an external factor that created that. That was the officials.
Yeah.
Own that. Don't be afraid. Don't run from it. Own that. And then rebuild. That's what I had to do.
Let me ask you just one more quick question.
Wait, there's a question. Yeah, there's a question from a brother named King Rowe, and he said first off he said he wanted to appreciate you and your message and your story, but he wanted to know, how do you prepare mentally for yourself for each day you wake up, in where you at?
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, so that I prepare myself mentally. Well, first off, I know that my life is worth way was than the sentence given to me, you know. And so the way that I prepare is this. One, I give myself positive affirmation, and or should I say, I live by a motto. One is this. Well, it goes. I will not fear. Fear is the mind killer. I will face my fear and let it run past me. And when the fear is gone, I will remain. Then I say, either I win or I won't lose. Either I succeed or I won't fail. And then from then on, I'm driven. I know for a fact I will be a success. And I don't care what hiccups or handicaps or whatever I might have. No weapon that will impede my shut me down. I've been through too much. And so the worst that this system could have ever done was make me believe that because the minute I realized that I was, they messed up. They messed up. And so now I'm an advocate for I'm an advocate to help people. I'm an advocate for progression. I don't leave no man behind. And I've sacrificed so many times just to help others. This new culture today of drugged out thugs, that is the next enslavement. It started off with crack cocaine, now it's crystal and heroin. And it's unfortunate because I see these brilliants with extraordinary minds that be so much in this, and they give their lives away to that cancer. Yeah. And so I'm steady educating them, and they may not stop that day, but as long as the message is there, that's
I have we're gonna have to wrap it up soon, but I have a question I want to ask you in relation to what Ron and Malik were talking about earlier, or all of us were talking about. What is your views? We've all been in there, like you are. Definitely not with the kind of sentence that you have. However, right. We've all been there. So we have our own experiences. With what we experience and see as modern day slavery. But you're there, and you've been there a long time. How do you view modern day slavery from the inside?
Well, prison psychosis is real. Prison psychosis is the everybody that knows that he an ingenious ecological enslavement so that he could remove the chains. Well, it's the same in here. The way that they have it is that, we enslave each other now. That's how sick it's gotten. So it's not only the captors having your body, but now they have our minds in a way that we start being disrespectful towards each other. We start sabotaging each other. We become our because we don't trust each other. It's all designed. It's all it's a psychological warfare in which they utilize our own politics against us, and they just each other. But slaving is real. Look, they have us working, giving us what, 8-9 cents an hour. They have us breaking our backs for 9 cents, 8 cents, and tell us you got a job. You should feel proud of yourself for being responsible. You serious? So I can keep your industry up and running? Because mind you, right. This is on the stock market. You can buy a share in these industries. So you're basically saying that cattle just keeps you having it just makes no sense. But I don't even know how to break that all down right now. I'm having.
You said a lot. I heard you mention the physical slavery, the physical modern day slavery, and the psychological. The psychological is just imperative as the physical, or the manual. Right. So I think you explained it perfectly. We only have about 10 minutes left in the show. Ron, do you have any more questions or insights or feedback for Mr. Monsta Yo?
Well, brother, you said a mouthful. You said a mouthful because certainly, as a CEO just said, all three of us has experienced that life. We were there. Again, not for the time you've been there, but certainly, I got 24 years.
Can't hear?
24 months.
No, I can't
17 days.
Hold on, Orion.
On mine,
He
his
can't
screen
hear
is
you.
blank.
Can you hear now, Monster? Monster.
On
Brother.
his screen is blank. You hear
Don't
me?
worry about that. Can you hear him?
You hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't hear him at all.
Okay, Monster, can you hear me, brother?
I hear something now.
Okay. Certainly, you said a mouthful.
No.
Myself, CDL, and my brother Malik, we've been there where you are. Again, not for that long of the time, but we got years in. So I mean, I don't know what's going with the audio, but let me continue to speak so the viewers can hear.
I don't hear anything.
I understand what the brother Monster said. Malik, you've been there, right?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yo, you've been there, right?
Right.
You've been there.
What happened?
So, brother, even if you can't hear me, I'm sorry if you can't hear me, we still have to speak to our viewers. Because this brother said a mouthful. And I hope he's given some of you, if not all of you, enough to think about, to speak to your kids about, to ensure they don't end up being right where he is. Because he had to take a life to defend his own life and his manhood. Okay? That's what the sit down is about. We're going to be bringing you more stories and powerful stories, impactful stories, what entertainers and all. So I just want to pass it on to my brother and my sister, and we appreciate you for being on, Monster.
Yeah, that's a fact. On behalf of the sit down, on behalf of me and the program that me and the brother have called Constant Dons and our movement. I thank you, man. We thank you for coming on and giving a testimony, because it's not a story. Everything you just displayed, everything you just shared with us is a movie.
Yes, sir.
It's a real life movie. I don't call these type of movies stories. It is a movie. It needs to be put on film, because the message that you have to deliver today, what you're talking about today, it needs to be heard. Like 50 Cent at the show, Life for Life. That brother's story was being told. Your story needs to be told. But real quick, what has me kind of steaming inside, and I had to calm down and just let you talk and just pay attention, because at 17, mentally, you were still a child. At 17, intellectually, you were still a baby. And I have a report on that from some chemical scientists that was written in the Time magazine. And when I was in the pen, I had to buy it from a dude because he didn't want to give it to me. And there was a report in there about the growth and the development of the adolescent brain. And it talked about the adolescent brain and the things they go to and the risks that we take and the things we do that adults be like, damn, he crazy. So behind that investigative story and that research, there was a movement done in New York State where for teenagers, a life sentence was just off the table. So my question to you is, were you given an opportunity to get re-sentenced under the new law in California that a minor should not be charged as an adult?
Not yet, because right now they're still changing. They push these directives. Under those directives, I actually fit 5 of those directives. So we're for a positive outcome. Looking forward to a positive outcome. But as of right now, they've been trying to stop him at every corner based on the fact that, mind you, he's really pushing for reform. And not only is he pushing for reform, pushing for juvenile reform, and that is a game changer, because there's so many individuals, just like you said, that you mentioned that the people that the thing that you read, the scientific study, if I'm correct, it was from Piecemeal. And
yes, sir.
Stated that juveniles lack development of to the point to where they do not possess that entrenched mentality. And so the reality is this, is that brains were not fully developed. So we could not appreciate the gravity. Don't get me wrong. Appreciate or should I say, we could understand, in parts of what we were doing. I don't think that as appreciate the gravity of what you do, because there's a ripple effect. And when you start to ripple effect, it's no longer about, oh, I'm in jail. It's no longer about, oh, I just hurt my family. You start thinking about that person's family affected. You start thinking about the community's families that you affected. You start thinking about the businesses that you affected. And then it starts to get real. You know what I'm saying? So when they talk about that, it's truly understandable. When you get older, you start to realize and you really start to hurt, because you sit there like, I put people through this. I put people through this. And this, maybe this destiny, it was meant for testimony, so that they don't experience the same things that you and I had to experience, that myself and Ro had to experience, that myself and L had to experience. We're here for a reason. We're here for a reason. This is not some simple, oh, guess what? I went to prison for a day and, I got tough and, now I'm walking in society. Not at all. Life gets real when you're doing time. And
yes, sir.
Again, but to go back to what you were saying though, yes, we're hoping. We're hoping. And we look forward to it when it comes, because I'm gonna take full advantage of it, and I'm gonna be that billboard of success the way you all are. Straight up. I'm not gonna fail. I done failed too many times. I'm not gonna fail on this one.
Quick question, Monsta. Can you hear me?
That's it.
Can you hear me?
He hear you.
Monsta. Quick question.
I can hear DL. I can hear Brother Malik. I just can't hear Ro.
He can't hear you for some reason, Oran. So what's the question?
I don't know why. We'll translate this to him. Ask him, was any of the evidence of his abuse by his father used as exculpatory evidence at his trial when he was a kid, or used in his defense?
Was Oran asked if any of the the instances of the abuse by your father, because you did say that he was locked up for abusing you, was any of that evidence used during your court cases as a juvenile to try to help you?
Not at well. They it was always in my. I had a truck public defender that told me. You got to realize that when they already believe guilty, they don't care about you. They're not just that though. A lot of public defenders, their whole point is to get paid and get you up out. And so there wasn't no when you're ignorant to the law, because when you're a juvenile, most of the time you are ignorant to the law. You used to get played public defender, and that's exactly what happened. I got railroaded, I got played, and here I am.
How much time we got, CDO?
No, no, because we can all hear you.
I hear you, bro.
We can hear you. He just can't hear you for some reason.
All right.
Okay. I'm gonna close.
So hey, we're gonna say goodbye to you, Monster. We're gonna do some closing remarks over here. We thank you. We'll be in touch. I'm in touch with you every day anyway.
Yeah, I'll be back at you, bro. Good. That's a fact.
We appreciate you.
Man, I appreciate
Stay
all
strong,
of
combat.
Real way.
Stay strong, man.
Likewise, bro.
Great things will happen for you, bro. Stay focused.
Likewise.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna be at you, family. We're gonna be at you.
Man. Thank you, sis. Thank you, brothers. Man, y'all stay positive.
Just stay safe in there, homie.
So I'm really glad that he was able to make it with us. For those of you guys who are viewing, his information is in the chat. I also I need you guys to also note that Cons to Dons is Cons, the number 2 Dons with an S. jband.com is the website for CEO Oran and Malik. And I also have put my Never Too Late nonprofit organization in the chat. I want to do a shout out to a business, Black-owned female business. She has a newer business. She sells apparel. It's jband.com. She sent me this today. It says, I'm feeling I don't give a fuckish today. She got some little face masks. And she sent us a little I wish a Karen would bag. So I want to shout out to her and her business. Check her out at jband.org. I'm sorry. But yeah, I wish a Karen would.
That's what I'm saying. We wish you would.
I wish. And so, and all of our contact information is in the description as well. Again, we meet Monday, Saturday, and Thursdays. I said that wrong. Monday, Thursday, and Saturdays, 5 p.m. Western, 7 p.m. I guess that's Standard, and 8 p.m. Eastern. You guys have some closing stuff and housekeeping you want to do before we go?
Yo, anybody out here, anybody out there that's watching, and if you happen to catch this on the rewind, you have to subscribe if you want to catch it live. You know what I mean? Don't wait for the rewind. You got to catch it while it's going down. You know, don't tell me and hit me on my timeline talking about, yo, you my man, you my bro, you my this, you my that. You understand what I'm saying? I just got to say it the way it is, and I'm saying it the way it is, whether you like it or not. I'm tired of hearing all that. I support you. I love you. Yeah.
Prove it.
But you don't tune in and you don't support. Tune in, check in. You understand what I'm saying? Don't wait till this thing goes somewhere because you already know how to get down. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to lie. Door closed. Okay? Door closed.
I second that emotion, man. I second that. You know,
right now. So when you see it, it is what it is. I don't, you know what I mean? Like when I did that time, let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it official. I ain't seen none of y'all. So me on my timeline talking about I'm your man, I'm your friend, I'm your this, I got love for you, you check in or check the fuck, excuse me, like check out.
I also want to give a shout out to Janelle. I want to give a shout out to Janelle Harris as well from She Exists. She been blowing up, your girl. I'm on some billboards for International Women's Month, and we in Buckhead, Georgia, and the Staples Center, and a whole bunch of other places. Shout out to her. She's doing amazing work. I'll be speaking for her magazine Pivot, her conference Pivot on the 28th. You can catch my Facebook on that. But and Malik and Oran are doing amazing work with Cons to Dons. And, you know, I appreciate you two so much. You guys are my heroes.
Right back at you. So for me, I just want to say to all the viewers that, you know, that tuned in, and for those of you especially that I wrote messages, we see your messages. We appreciate the messages, and like my brother Oran said, we want you to like, follow, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you can be live when we're live. You know what I mean? As opposed to watching the video after this airs.
Right, then we can answer your questions. We can answer your questions and interact with you.
Right. So thank you, D, for subscribing. I see you. Also, I just want to shout out to someone very special to me, man. My Aunt Kathy, my mother's sister. This is the woman that, this is the woman, when I got locked up in 1988, she held my mother down from 1988 to June 2013, when I came home from the penitentiary and my mother was diagnosed with stage 3 breast, stage 4 brain cancer. Instead of me being there taking care of my mother, she was. And for that, I love you more. And I call her Aunt Mama. This is my Aunt Kathy. I love you. And I'll talk to you soon in about an hour or so.
We love you, Aunt Kathy. We love you.
Hey, and I know this sounds crazy, but I need to say this. You know, in the world of social media, shit's crazy. And I've never been a social media front person, but now I'm everywhere. But not by design, just by happenstance. But that's where I actually met these two brothers, these two kings. I've also, you know, I've networked with a lot of people through social media. And to be honest, I want to give a shout out to those of you in our chat, because I know a lot of y'all I met through social media, and I salute y'all, because y'all support me more than my own people. People I've known for years, people I've known for decades. Y'all been supporting me like no other, and I appreciate y'all. I just want to say that.
Oh, right quick before we go, I gotta say this. I'm sorry.
Come on.
And when I first interviewed, maybe even today, you know, we made comments, or I'm not going to talk about myself. I made comments about white people, Caucasians, and whole not. But I do want to say this. I have, in the last 17, 18 months, met some white people or Caucasians that have treated me better and show me more love right now
And support,
people I've known for 30 some odd years. So
talk about
anyone, I don't want to shout their names because they know who they are. And I'm sure you may be looking. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. And when we speak, or you hear me speak about Caucasians, you know I'm not talking about you.
We know,
I'm talking
about them crackers.
I hope you know that, because I have a lot of Caucasian white friends to this day. I got love for. More love.
Well, there's a difference between a white man and a cracker.
That's a
I'm
fact.
just saying. I'm just saying.
You know,
I had to put it out there. And to my Christian brothers and sisters that's listening, don't think for 1 minute that I have anything, because there's an Arabic term that says lakum dinakum waliyadin. To you be your way, and to me be mine. But that does not mean that we are adversaries, that I hate you. So if you walking in your faith and you walking in your truth, as we say alhamdulillah, and that's good for you. So come on, check in with us. And my white friends, y'all know what it is.
That's right.
Hey, you know,
so once again, to all of the Asian family around the country, right? Yeah. We here at the sit down, we here at Constance, we here at She Exists, we here at Hope International, my sister CDL's program, right? We support you, we stand with you, and we are here. And we're gonna start doing, we're gonna keep this, we're gonna keep, you know, what's affecting you in our conversations here on the sit down. Because what affecting you, it affects us.
There we go.
So peace and love to the Asian family. With that being said, God bless you. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Cuban love, Cuban love, D. They got 1,000 messages of peace in there.
I gotta get the Cubans up in here. Don't trip. We gotta take my people up in here. Don't trip. Don't trip. Yeah. We here. We ready. We got some Cubans up in here. But look, so we'll be here again Monday, 5 p.m. Western or Eastern. I mean, yeah, Western. Yeah, you know, West Coast. Shit. 5 o'clock West Coast, 8 o'clock East Coast. Y'all figure out what's in between. Shit.
7 o'clock.
and 7 o'clock in Texas. Whatever that is. Right. Y'all figure
it out. Love y'all. All right, love y'all, man. All right.
Hey, bro.
Huh?
I said, I holler at you in a minute. Salute.